Africa Sports Network here on Celebrity Sports Interview. I have Josh Gardner. When you hear this name and when you've watched Columbus Crew, Seattle Sounders, LA Galaxy, Sporting Kansas, you will know who I'm talking about. He is a versatile player, a defender, a midfielder, and a striker. You should know that. So thank you, Josh, for joining me on the program. And also a youth soccer development coach who is into talent discovery. He discovers talent, he harnesses it, polish it, and make them great stars. Welcome, Josh Gardner, to the program.
Thanks for having me, Sam.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Like I told you when we were having chit-chat for coming on the show, I really appreciate this opportunity you gave me today to really pick your brain a little bit as regards soccer in the city of Houston.
Yeah, of course.
Brother, let's talk a little bit about your background. Born in Freeport, Texas, and you grew up in a country where other sports were, in high demand, like the NFL, like the baseball, like the ice hockey. Why did you choose soccer?
I grew up in a baseball family. So my dad played baseball, not anywhere near like college or anything, but I grew up throwing a baseball, picking up a bat. When I moved to Houston, so I was actually, we lived in McAllen, right on the southern tip of Texas for about 6 years. And then I moved to Houston when I was 7. And one of my neighbors was on a little rec soccer team. And so he invited me to go play on the team. And I loved it. It was like just running around and chasing a ball or chasing the ball, right? Or people chasing you. That was like, my first real experience in the game. And then I was left-footed and I could kick a ball pretty hard. So, people liked how, I guess, I played in the rec levels. So that's kind of how I grew up. I continued playing other sports. I continued playing baseball until I was 12. I played football in high school. I kicked on the high school team. I played basketball up until 8th grade. So I was very versatile in a lot of sports. But soccer was just different, man. I mean, I can't, scoring a game-winning goal, 80 minutes into a game, like there's nothing like that.
The soccer appeal was so strong that you can't just resist it, right?
I mean, and the thing is like, it's always changing, right? It's always like basketball, it's constantly moving. I think that's what I loved about it was in baseball, you're sitting there, you get to bat every, 9 times around, and then the ball might not ever get hit to you. But in soccer, you're always constantly in a position to receive or to defend. So I think that's what I loved about it.
All right, so when you enter the MLS, you came from Houston Tourists to LA Galaxy, you got drafted in the Super Draft, in a career span over a decade that took you across like 4 or 5 clubs. Just tell us about that journey.
Honestly, one of my dreams growing up, and my mom has a paper, was to be a professional soccer player. When I grew up in Houston playing for the Houston Hurricanes soccer club, which is now Albion Hurricanes. I went to school at the University of Cincinnati. I was found, Sam, my sophomore summer in college. I came back to Houston and played. The U20 national team was having a little friendly tournament, and they couldn't get all their players in. So they invited a couple of Houstonians to play in that game. Had a great game, played left back, had never played left back in my life. Everybody's cramping, I'm up and down the sideline, running, just running and gunning, and got an assist on the only goal. We won 1-0. There was an agent in the crowd and approached me after the game and said, if you have a good junior season, let's look to bring you into the MLS. So that's kind of how my journey started. Went back to school, had a really good junior season. The MLS called, said we want to offer you a contract. Back then it was Nike Project 40. Now it's Generation Adidas. And got picked up by LA Galaxy under Siggy Schmidt. And, then we traveled around. I mean, you want me to keep going? Because I can, it's a long, we got 11 years to talk about, bro.
11 years, that's a big chunk of time. playing in the MLS and also looking at MLS during the formative stage after the World Cup, and it just means your generation of players in the league played a major part in that formative stage of the league. Do you think so?
I do. I mean, I think a lot of us consider ourselves journeymen, right? We are kind of creating the pathway for the next generation to come in. You see bigger contracts now. You see more high-profile players coming to the league. It's incredible to see, and now being able to see stadiums that are full, sellout crowds week in, week out. I think that's the beauty of it.
And the league is about to hit the 30th franchise in San Diego. Looking back, way back when you guys were there and what is going on right now, how can you describe the development of the
league? Back when we were playing, there were, I think, about 12 to 15 teams in the league. Now we have over 20, and that continues to grow. And I think it's great because the United States is so big. If you look at England or you look at Spain, it's a much smaller country, right? So you have more clubs in a very dense area. In the U.S., I mean, if you live in New England and you're going to fly all the way to Seattle, that's tough, right? So, I think now that we have more clubs, and I think we can continue to add more clubs, I think that's only going to help the league out with just the amount of players coming through our system. And it's cool to see guys that I played with now in front offices or head coaches or on, staffs in the game professionally. I think that's great.
Walter, you are heavily, since you retired from the game, retired from active soccer, you've been heavily involved in talent discovery and other youth football setup. How has it been looking at, the pay-to-play system at that level of soccer development here in the country?
I think that's, honestly, Sam, I think it's tough. I think now soccer has become very much a business and not really focused on player development. And I think there's a fine line between both. I think you can create a great product and still charge kids, a fee to play. But if the player is not the center focus of your development, then you quickly move away from and into the business side of it. For me, with my youth club here that I have in Katy, I tell parents, we don't hold you guys to a contract. If you guys want to go, we want you to go, right? And we want to make sure that you guys know that every kid has a name, they're valued, they're not just a number. And we want to develop them as best as we can so that they can push to where they really want to get to, which is at the next level.
Right. This is your youth soccer setup in Katy, Texas. Tell us more about it.
The Houston Rangers?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very exciting. So MLS Next is the highest platform for the boys side in the U.S. I think 90%, there's a stat, 90% of all national team pools those kids are playing in the MLS Next. So for us to be able to bring that level of soccer to Katy is huge. Growing up in Katy ISD, there's a ton of good players in that area. Cypress, Houston, Richmond, Rosenberg, Katy, obviously. And now we're situated where we can help develop these kids and put them on a more of a pro platform and pathway, which is our main goal. We never want to hold a kid back. So we want to develop them and then try and open doors. And I think the reason why, when I was approached to bring it here, Sam, honestly, is because when I was coaching at Sporting KC's Academy and developing those kids, Gianluca Busio, Cam Duke, Jalen Lindsay, these guys are playing in high, MLS, or I think Gianluca was in Italy for some time. They know what I'm about, and it's about the player. And, being awarded this is, MLS is putting a lot of faith in us that we can build a strong club and, push players into different platforms. And I have a ton of contacts in the league. I have a ton of contacts in Europe. I have a ton of contacts in, Division I schools. And I think that's what kind of sweetens the deal a little bit when we bring myself into this environment with players.
You earlier on you spoke about the difficulty in navigating the intricacies in youth soccer development, and we went ahead to enumerate some bottleneck roadblock that you've encountered, since you brought the Katy Rangers, through the MLS and Nest project. How do you think we can, solve that problem? Because first of all, you got to develop the talents, you got to polish them, then talk about, apparently it's going to be a business. You have to commercialize, and how do you think we can, move away from that and focus more on youth soccer development? Because if you fail to catch them young at that stage, you lose them when they grow.
Yeah, I think it's tough too, right? Because in Europe, you can sell a player at 14, and now you're reaping the rewards of your development, right? Here, we can't necessarily do that, and I think if that ever changes, I think you can get away from the pay-to-play model, and I think you can really see which clubs do a good job of player development. I just went to the GA Cup in Florida a few weeks ago, and I do match evaluating for the MLS. And so we're out there identifying talent for them, who we think could be on a national team, player pool, or maybe pushing to an MLS, a pro contract, because obviously they're in their academies. And then we also completed the US Soccer Talent ID scouting license as well. So not only do I have all of my, A license, my French license that I did through MLS, now I also have a talent ID scouting license as well. And I think whenever we can start to develop these kids and sell them, if you will, to bigger clubs, I think that's whenever you can start to say, hey, we lower the cost, and or finding businesses who can really, see the vision in it and behind it, and create sponsorships and give them the opportunity to bless these clubs, and now the players can really develop under a freer pathway financially.
Yeah, why I keep hammering on this pay to play, because I was involved at the UPSL level with the Spring United, former FC Mane. One of my friends brought the franchise from California to Texas here, former FC Mane, and the name changed to Spring United Football Club. And the pay-to-play system, do you think it has really helped at that level of youth soccer development?
I think it's a necessity right now. I don't necessarily think it's really helped, because I think we're missing out on a lot of players who can't afford to play. And I think some clubs do a very good job with scholarshiping players. And I think we need to do a better job of putting programs together in lower income communities, because as you know, there are a ton of different communities out there who those kids, soccer is their first sport. And a lot of times, soccer is not the first sport. They're the first love for a kid, right? It's baseball, it's football, it's basketball, it's hockey, like you said. So I think we need to do a better job of going into communities that are less affluent and giving them the opportunities to develop them and bringing them into a culture where it's now a little bit more organized, and seeing really the growth that they can go on.
Okay, earlier on, I spoke about your background, your Houston native, your Texas native, being in this city. And when you look at the diversity the city of Houston presents, I think it should be the third, biggest city in the U.S. and very diverse in terms of, people here. We call it the melting pot. Do you think the local team here, both the Dynamo and other, soccer, teams based in Houston, do you think they've tapped fully into the potentials this city got to offer in terms of its diversity?
No. I think Houston is so diverse, and we were talking earlier. There's a big Nigerian community. There's a big Hispanic community. Can we get players that can bring those cultures into the stadium? I think we can do a better job of that. But I also think it's not easy. MLS is not easy. I mean, when we inherit